Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.
And it's only for me something which is at the moment, but it will not be forever. We will come back to hugging and kissing.
The St. Louis Symphony Orchestra returns to Powell Hall this week in a much-changed world, one that presents challenges for life and for music alike.
They are, separated, I think, 6 feet from each other. So suddenly, each musician can hear himself or herself very well, and yet has to try to create a sound mixed with the others.
I'm Sarah Fensky. This is St. Louis on the Air. Seven months after the coronavirus pandemic shut down large events across the country, the Symphony is kicking off a shortened season of what it calls chamber orchestra concerts. Think big pieces, only with smaller audiences and fewer musicians on stage, too. And calling these pieces big is no exaggeration. Take, for example, this piece, which should be familiar to you, and which kicks off the season. And that, of course, is Beethoven's immortal Third Symphony. That's the Eroica. And that recording is from a past performance by the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra. And joining us today to discuss that orchestra's work and the rest of this season's highlights is music director Stephane Deneve. So, Stephane, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to speak with you from St. Louis. I'm here.
And we are so glad that you're back. And we're excited about these concerts that are beginning tonight. What made you choose Beethoven's Third for your return to Powell Hall?
Well, I definitely thought that after so many months not having the luck to play together, we needed to just, plunge into one of the greatest possible masterwork. And this one definitely qualifies. It's also the Beethoven year, and this symphony was supposed to be played this fall. So for all those reasons, I thought it was the right piece to start. Also, the meaning of the piece fits perfectly because it's so human and it expresses so many different emotions, including mourning. The second movement, the slow movement, is a marcha funèbre, and I thought it would be also a way to pay homage to the loss that we have had the past months. So it's a great symphony that still ends in an incredibly witty, hopeful fashion. So it covers many emotions that we have been through the past months.
You make a great case that this is the right symphony for this time. There's a great story about this symphony, and that's apparently Beethoven wrote it about Napoleon. He later changed his mind about Napoleon and tried to revoke this dedication. He was angry that Napoleon had named himself the emperor. Do you think this symphony also tells us something about hero worship?
Oh, definitely. I mean, this symphony speaks about many things. It has been inspired by the values of the French Revolution. Beethoven was very admirative of the political changes in France, and he even actually, believe it or not, considered to move to Paris to go there. And that's why actually this symphony contains some influences from French composers like Gossec, Méhul, Cattel, Pleyel, which certainly would have pleased the French audience if he moved to Paris. But finally he didn't. He stayed in Vienna. And I have to say that there is a feeling of heroism, not only because of the man Bonaparte, who indeed was the first inspiration of the piece, but also because it's very inspired by another piece that Beethoven wrote a little bit before called the Prometheus, the Creatures of Prometheus, which was a ballet, and he uses some melodies from this ballet in the Symphony Number 3, the Eroica Symphony, and on top of it, I think there is also something about Apollo and about Beethoven himself. So I think this symphony speaks about really people bigger than life that try to move the world into more freedom.
So the symphony has it all, really. This does seem like the perfect choice. You can have a little something for everyone, from mourning to heroism, all these notes, a note of thinking about France, your homeland. Everything's all there.
No, it's great. And I tell you, it was an immense joy to start the rehearsals and to be together again and to serve such great music. I must say, we were moved to tears, all of us, to hear the great sound of this symphony in Powell Hall. It sounds so great, and despite the social distancing between the musicians and the mask that the non-wind instruments wears on stage, despite that, there is just the power of music. It's there. It's contagious the right way, if I may say, and it's just joy. It's just joy to make music together, thanks to Beethoven.
So I understand you have roughly half the number of musicians that you would normally have. Does that affect the sound and the power of a piece like this?
I'm a positive person. Luckily, I'm negative about COVID, but I'm positive in spirit. And the fact is, I think you always have to make the best of any situation. So, yes, we are separated indeed, and that's why we fill the full stage, but only with half of the normal amount of musicians we could put on stage. And I thought this is an opportunity to find some other way of playing, to listen to each other even more, and to have a kind of soloistic engagement in the playing, because it's very strange. Normally the string section is like a wave of sound. People are very near each other, and they don't always hear their individual sounds so well because they are so close to other musicians. But here they are separated, I think, 6 feet from each other. So suddenly each musician can hear himself or herself very well, and yet has to try to create a sound mixed with the others. So it is interesting. It's a different dynamic. It's a different listening, and somehow it gives a certain kind of crispiness in the sound. And I mean, we worked, of course, to make it the most interesting experience, and I can guarantee our listeners that it will sound still as a symphony orchestra.
It must have felt so good to be back together, but at the same time, I imagine there's probably people you wanted to hug, and here you have to keep your distance even though you're seeing them again after months. What was that homecoming like for you?
The fact is, I think I'm quite famous for being anyway, a very big hugger and kisser in my country, in France. We always salute people, kissing 2 or sometimes 4 times on the cheek, everybody, and it always surprised sometimes people here. So it was for me even more strange to not be able to do that, because I miss indeed just this contact, and I know it will be back. Though I have to say I'm a positive person and an optimist, and we'll get through it, and at some point we'll come back to hugging and kissing and shaking hands and all of that, because we are humans. We need it, and we had pandemic before, in the planet and on this planet, and we always came back to the right warmth between each other, because that's what it's about. We are humans, and it's only for me something which is at the moment, but it will not be forever. We will come back to hugging and kissing.
It's good to know you're looking forward to the return of catching Americans off guard by kissing them again. We can all look forward to that. And not to dwell too much on the pandemic here, but I find myself also wondering, I know you have such an expressive face. Is it harder for the orchestra to follow what you're doing now that you're up there on the podium in a mask?
It's a very, very good question. I have to confess something to you. I really hope that I will be able to remove the masks at some point for me, because I'm far enough. In Europe, I've been now doing concerts with the Brussels Philharmonic and also with the Bavarian Radio in Germany, in Munich. And luckily over there it was fine to conduct without masks. So it's the first time here I do wear a mask because I want to give a good example, and I think it's more psychological that the audience feel that we care for them, that we want to show that we really are very serious to be doing everything to keep everybody healthy. That said, it is a scientific fact that it is a bit unnecessary, because I am far from the first desk of violins, very far, actually, even more than 6 feet, and they are wearing masks themselves. So, okay, I decided to keep a mask for now, and when everybody will feel a little bit more comfortable and will understand that it is very safe for me to not wear a mask, I really dearly hope I will be able to remove it and it will be safe. This is the case for sure. Because, yes, I suffer to wear a mask because I love to communicate with my face and to smile and to breathe with people, to just breathe with them, and it is very strange to have only my eyes to offer, and something is missing. So, yes, it's a compromise. It's for now, and let's hope that I can remove the mask very soon.
Well, let's go back to something happier. We were talking about the fact you have the Eroica. You're going to be doing that beginning tonight. There's another piece on the bill tonight and throughout this weekend that is pretty exciting, and this is something that I feel like people won't be as familiar with. This piece is called Starburst, and it's by someone named Jessie Montgomery. Who is she?
So she's a wonderful young American composer. She lives in New York, and I met her there, and I discovered her music. She's a wonderful lady. She's a great player as well. She's a string player, and her music has a fabulous energy, and it's about starburst. So it's about actually a play on imagery of rapidly changing musical colors. You know, it's exploding gestures, and it has a really positive energy. This piece, it's a great opener.
We got a little clip of this to play here. Now, this is not the St. Louis Symphony playing Starburst. This is something called the Sphinx Virtuosi, and Jessie Montgomery, the composer, is the composer in residence of that conductorless orchestra. Let's listen. And that is Starburst by Jessie Montgomery. The St. Louis Symphony Orchestra will be playing that in its shows that kick off tonight. Stephane, in our last couple minutes here, just looking ahead, I know on the weekend of October 22nd, you have another really good bill. You've got some Strauss in there, some Dvorak. Anything you'd want to highlight from what is coming ahead next weekend?
Yes, with pleasure. You know, we really are restarting, and we welcome people very safely now, so we can really play music for an audience, and this is so great. So we'll have many more programs to come, but already next week we have another program with the Metamorphosen of Strauss, and it's very interesting because it's a piece quoting the Eroica Symphony of Beethoven. So there is a good link from the first week to the second with this piece. I have a little problem with this piece, I have to tell you the truth, is that it's extremely beautiful, but it's very sad, and it's very apocalyptic somehow, the very ending of the piece. And it is, of course, sad music can comfort us and heal our souls. It's very important to play sad music to feel better. That said, the very end of this piece for me is so special that it's hard to imagine applause, you know, right after clapping. So I had this crazy idea to, without interruption, to go from the Metamorphosen of Strauss into a Japanese piece of today from the composer Yoshimatsu. And this is really a beautiful piece called And Birds Are Still. And I thought it's very important to know that whatever we do wrong and the wars we had in the past and what we do sometimes to the environment, so far, the birds are still singing. And so this will be a comforting musical version of that. So after Metamorphose, we'll have this Japanese piece that will comfort us in a very positive way. And we'll end this concert with a Serenade for Wind of Dvorak, which is wonderful, very romantic piece, very uplifting. And so we will be able to show, again, our full orchestra, but in parts, the strings first and then the woodwinds, in two separated groups. So you could still hear the full orchestra in one concert.
Well, there is so much to look forward here, and there's so much to look forward to throughout this season. So people who want more information about this, they can check out the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra's website. There's a full list of these upcoming concerts and also a full list of all the safety measures that go along with them. So Stephane Deneve, music director of the St. Louis Symphony, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Is listening to an episode of St. Louis on the Air part of your daily routine? If so, suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations, and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help new people discover our show. Thank you.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.